The marketplace just dropped a massive wave of new content, but there's a problem. It's getting harder to tell the high quality upgrades from the basic ports. Today we're putting these new releases to the test. We're going to look at the massive 1935 historical collection from Redwing to see if these vintage airfields actually feel like a time machine. We'll also be diving into the brand new Belfast City and Cape May to see if their pricing tags are justified. We're going to do that by comparing the default content with the screenshots which the vendors provided. And for the night flyers, yes, I know, I've always asked the people from Dream Scenery to come up with a before after picture, but they still didn't do that. So based on that, what I decided to do is in the night enhancement series, which include both Munich and Toronto, I'm gonna compare them. I'm gonna compare the default sim to the screenshots which they provide so that you can decide if it makes sense to buy the package. Let's start with the most dramatic change, the return to 1935. Redwing is known for their 1935 packages, and the first one is Lakehurst Maxfield, Kilo November Echo Lima. This package, as you can see, brings you back to the year 1935. It contains a lot of the old things, and hence comparing the current scenery with this is something interesting. So let's do that for, in this case, Lakehurst Maxfield. The second package which brings you back to 1935 is Moorfield Field Airbase Sunnyvale, Kilo November Uniform Quebec, also by Redwing, and if we scroll down we can see this special building. It is massive, but it's also pretty interesting, because if you would look at the default Flight Simulator 2024 content, you wouldn't likely see all those details. But since we already compared one, I decided not to do another one. But this for you, this one really adds realism compared to the default scenery, but it brings you back to 1935. The next one is also from Redwing, it's 1935 Hamburg, which brings you back to the year 1935, as you might have already guessed, and brings you back to this airport, which is one of the oldest international airports in the world, which is still operational. And it's the second oldest airport in the country after Tempelhof Airport. It was opened in 1911 from private funding, and it was it's still open, right? And this is what you will get. You will get a lot of old cars, old style people, if there are people around, and it brings you really back to that year, and really brings you back to that year 1935. Then we've got Berlin Tempelhof. Remember the previous one? That was also mentioned one of the oldest airports in the country. Well, this one was on the second place, right? It's one of the very first airports in Germany. It was opened in January the 6th, 1926, so after the previous one which we discussed. And at one point it became the headquarters of the Junkers Luftverkehr AG and the Deutsche Aero Lloyd. It includes a lot of facilities, a lot of old facilities, because it's in 1935 style. You can see the emergency service here, you can see the traffic tower, but also during the night it looks really nice. So Tempelhof Airport, created in this case again by Redwing, which is known for their packages, bringing you back into history. Now for those who like more the modern airports, this is a big one. It's Belfast City, Echo Golf Alpha Charlie. It's the vital gateway to Northern Ireland, offering a convenient and well-connected hub for both domestic and regional international flights. Like flights from, I would say, this nice airport to Manchester, Birmingham, Edinburgh, London, etc. Operated by Aer Lingus, British Airways, EasyJet, Loganair, and this is a nice one because it also contains a lot of things. It contains high-resolution PBR ground textures, precise markings, cars are added, which gives you a depth and authenticity to the environment, and there is a GSX profile for those who are using GSX. These are the screenshots from after the update, but let's have a look at how it looks with the default scenery. So we are at Belfast Airport, but using the default Flight Simulator 2024 content. And as you can see, this is the parking lot with all the cars which are parked here over here. Still doesn't look that bad, but compare it with the new package which is released this week in the marketplace and you will see a lot of differences. Now if we move around, we can also go to that terminal building. And as you can see, the terminal building is simply one massive block of concrete which you can't enter. Well, you can enter it, but you won't see much, right? You see simply nothing. Sometimes you can't even fly into the buildings, but that really differs per building, to be honest. Then for those who love to see the traffic tower, here's that default traffic tower. Also the traffic tower, you can see kind of blank windows, which doesn't show anything, right? It simply is black and you can't look into it. Other than that, the airport, I would say, from runway perspective and taxiway perspective looks cool, but if we are looking at, for example, these buildings, they are looking pretty clean. Although you can see some wear and tear, there are no open hangar doors, there are not a lot of, let's say, static aircrafts outside. We can see that the runway looks perfect. And also moving to the other side of the airport where we see some supporting buildings. This looks okay, but hey, it also, I would say, starts to look a little bit more ugly if you go directly outside of the airport. But now let's have a look how it looks like with that new add-on which has been released to the marketplace. As you can see, there are a lot of improvements, including the parked cars, but also the buildings around the airport received a massive update. This is the VDGS system. And for those who love to see the interior, there's some good news because the interior is also included in this package, which is, I can guarantee you, not part of the default content. If we look at during the night, it also looks pretty nice because they also updated the night lighting, and there are some large retailers also around the airport where they at least updated the buildings itself. They didn't update, for example, the parking lots, but still, it's a nice one. Cape May Airport, Kilo Whiskey Whiskey Delta, developed by Spinoza. It's a public airport in Lower Township, Cape May County in New Jersey, USA, and is owned by the Delaware River and Bay Authority. It's close to the central business district of Wildwood and it contains a lot of nice things. There are no static airports, it uses ground airport density or aircraft density, so you can adjust it upon your needs. And this is the airport which also includes a museum, the NAS Wildwood Museum, including a lot of things, including a Vietnam museum, including a lighthouse. The museum itself contains a lot of details, as you can see. It contains static aircrafts, but also look at the roof, how it's being modeled. So super nice, I would say, airport with also some history, right? So that's the connection with Redwing, which brought you back to 1935. Now you can see this one also with a lot of additions, including fire trucks, including a lot of legacy aircrafts, but also updated buildings, which makes it really nice. Now, what if I would tell you there's also a pack which gives you 2 airports for the price of, well, between brackets 1, then this is the one you need to have a look at. It's the Hungary Airport pack number 2, which includes LHEM, Rubik Erno Airport, or LHMP, Matko Airport. Both are smaller airports, but they are super nice. And they add a lot of detail because you can see the 4 cm pixel background photo created with drone photography. Hard to say. And this is what you will get. So this is also another nice one where you can see that they really spend some serious time, including the wear and tear on the buildings. I'm 100% sure that if you compare it with the default scenery, you will be amazed by this level of scenery. I didn't have a look at it yet, before and after, but I challenge you to have a look at it and then let me know, will this one really add value? I already know what the answer is, but feel free to drop it in the comment box below. Four Corners Regional Airport, Kilo Foxtrot Mike November, from MSF Scenery Builders. This airport is located in San Juan County, New Mexico, United States, in the city of Farmington. And if we scroll down, we can see the level of detail. They have a lot of buildings, including emergency services, including some static scenery as it looks like. But compared to the default scenery, it still is an improvement. for your flight simulator installation. And then the next one in this category, the airport Parales, Sierra Kilo India Bravo. It's located 11 kilometers from the city of Ibaque in Colombia, and it's the main airport of the department of the state Tolima. So a lot of them say details about this airport, when it was opened, etc. But also some details what they included. Optimized models, aircraft objects are there, and also the surroundings have been updated. And here you can see what you will get. So a lot of details, including updated terminal building, including updated runway and aprons. And you can see this one also looks beautiful, including, let's say, updated, say, plans. Not sure what the English word is, plans, I think. So also a nice one. The second group of packages which Dream Scenery released are the VFR objects for Houston, Newark, Tokyo, New York Metropolitan and Miami Key West, and likely several other ones, like the ones at Rotterdam. Those packages are adding a lot of VFR objects, in most cases in the industrial area. I always wondered what the difference is. So let's look at Rotterdam, how it currently looks like in Flight Simulator 2024, and then compare it with some screenshots of the VFR objects Rotterdam region from Dream Scenery. So to recap the enhanced night packages, there are multiple ones in this category, right? Munich, Alicante and Tenerife are 3 of them. And if we look a little bit lower, we can see Hamburg, Melbourne and Athens. And if we look at the last line, we can see Addis Ababa, Nice region, Palma de Mallorca, Brugge, Ibiza, Moscow, Antalya and Toronto. There's a differentiation between the road lights and the night enhancement. Night enhancements are focusing on the full city, or at least a part of the city, where the road lights are mostly focusing on updating the main roads, right? Only the main roads, not the smaller roads. So be aware of that. So what you're looking at is the default scenery of Flight Simulator 2024 and then the city of Alicante in Spain. And I must say, well, it already looks pretty good, right? So then it raises the question, do we need to have that Dream Scenery package? Well, that's of course hard to say, but based on this, it looks like everything is illuminated already pretty nice. So let's look at the screenshots which Dream Scenery provided to maybe give a better judgment on that. Now we looked at how it looks like in Flight Simulator 2024 using the default content. Let's have a look at some of the screenshots of, in this case, the package from Dream Scenery. Well, this is what you get. Well, I'd say maybe some parts have improved, but I would say for most of it, I'm really challenging Dream Scenery on where did they improve the package. If you hear this, Dream Scenery, I'm open for a discussion. So contact me by leaving a comment in the comment box below. So recapping the VFR objects, it updates the industry in most cases. For Houston, Newark and Staten, Tokyo, Yokohama region, Miami, Key West and Fort Lauderdale. And if we scroll down, we can also see that Rotterdam region received that update, which you already saw early in this video. So nice ones. So we're flying with a drone over Rotterdam, right? Mostly the harbor area, because I mentioned already that it's mostly the industrial area which received an update. This is the default scenery in Flight Simulator 2024, and as you can see, there are already a lot of details. But some details might be missing, because this was already part of Flight Simulator 2024, but if we look a little bit further away, right on the other end, you can see that it sometimes is missing some more details. I do think that they focus on this area, but to be honest, it's hard to say because based on the screenshots, I couldn't figure out 100% where they, made the adjustments. If you would look at this and then compare it with the scenery, which has been updated by Dream Scenery, that raises to me the question, is it worth the money? Well, let's compare their screenshots with this default scenery. So now we looked at how Flight Simulator 2024 looks like. Let's look at the VFR objects package from Dream Scenery. I can see a lot of announcements here at this new part of the, I would say, Maasvlakte number 2. Especially those cranes, those are really looking beautiful. If I scroll down, I can see some other images where I really think, okay, hey, if I would compare it with the default scenery, I see some improvements, a lot more compared to the night enhancements. But it's really up to you if you love this, right? It's really up to you if you like to have these additional things added to your, say, Flight Simulator 2024 installation. From the large quality improvements for multiple airports up to the atmospheric 9035 historical hubs, it's clear that developers are pushing the limits of what's possible in the sim right now. Whether you're looking for high-end terminal interiors like Belfast City or just a cleaner look for your night approaches in cities like Munich or Toronto, there's a lot to choose from this week. But as always, the marketplace is an investment. I'm curious, based on the side-by-side shots we looked at today, which of these airports or scenery packs is actually going to make it into your collection. I know we didn't look at all the details because it simply is becoming too much. Some vendors are pushing too much content, and if you look at the screenshots, it's hard to say, is it really an improvement? Hence I selected for picking out a few of them and then comparing them side by side. Let me know in the comments below, because I'm really curious about which ones you think are worth the money. If you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and stay tuned because I'll be posting a dedicated video very soon focused specifically on how realistic the new global airline traffic actually is. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you back next week.